Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Schools in Victoria. Audra, Sally, and Kyle plot. Claire receives a proposal. The terrible thing about Kyle's kiss with Audra in France is that Claire is still upset about it. Additionally, he kept his agreement with her grandfather a secret from her. And that he completely misjudged the situation, asking Claire to marry him when she needed distance more than anything else. In essence, Kyle has done everything incorrectly. He still anticipates forgiveness, though. Due of his wealth. And spoilt. And incredibly entitled. Amelia Hindley's character Victoria has some secrets to tell him. Perhaps he will pay attention. But for him, it would be a novel experience. Claire is out there having the time of her life, while Kyle is pouting. She is putting beloved Grandpa Victor in his proper place, being snotty to Audra, and spending time with attractive Holden. She smiles at him. He also hears what she has to say about Kyle. He is the ideal dude. Is he going to present Claire with the ideal proposal? Victor never follows through on his promises, which has cost Audra her business opportunities. Billy's inability to make wise decisions in both his personal and professional life has cost Sally her business opportunities. Sally and Audra are picking themselves up, dusting themselves off, and beginning over while the men in their lives stomp their feet and try to persuade the other that they are the smartest person in the room. Since women are not permitted to win in Genoa City, they will undoubtedly lose in the end. Claire and Holden laugh together while Kyle and Audra fight. In sharp contrast to the way Claire and Kyle talk these days, the pictures above depict Holden and Claire grinning, laughing, and smirking. But when Claire gets a fascinating invitation, how long will the smiles last? You can see that Holden asks Claire to accompany him to Los Angeles in the YNR weekly video preview. How is she going to react? In other developments, Audra and Sally are both in a bad place. They are no longer with their boyfriends, and they are unemployed. They're not out, even though they could be down. According to the weekly teasers, Sally and Audra are planning their next course of action. In order to avoid being down for too long, let's hope they come up with some good solutions. They will need to schedule a battle between Kyle and Audra while determining their next course of action. It is impossible for Kyle and Audra to be together without getting into a fight. Kyle is accusing Audra in the first picture. He most likely informs her that Genoa City has nothing to offer her. She could as well go out of town. Claire spends time with her mother as well. She might ask Victoria for advice if this occurs after Holden extends an invitation to visit Los Angeles. Victoria will most likely advise her against traveling with Holden, whether it's only for friendship. Kyle spends time with Victoria as well. Indeed, the teasers imply that Victoria offers Kyle uninvited counsel. But here's the deal. She can provide Kyle guidance, but will he take her wise words to heart? Because he hasn't listened to anyone yet. He would never have proposed to Claire and most likely would not have asked her to Paris if he had followed the advice of Diane and Jack. Because she doesn't want that at the moment. Grand gestures are not what she wants. She desires space, time, and the knowledge that Kyle truly understands his mistakes. The schools of thought forming within Genoa City have never been more divided, more strategic, or more personal than they are now, with Victoria Newman, Audra Charles, Sally Spectra, and Kyle Abbott all navigating different plots that intertwine like an elaborate chess game designed to break hearts, shift power, and test loyalty, while Claire Grace, caught in the very center of this storm, stands on the precipice of choices that will alter not only her romantic path but her entire identity, and in the background the whispers of betrayal and the faint echoes of unkept promises create a soundtrack of tension that no one can ignore, least of all Claire, who still feels the sting of Kyle's betrayal in France when his impulsive and selfish kiss with Audra shattered the fragile trust she had been clinging to, leaving her not only humiliated but also deeply wounded by the revelation that Kyle had the audacity to conceal his secret agreement with her grandfather Victor, a decision that not only misjudged the severity of the situation but displayed in neon lights how entitled, spoiled, and completely out of touch Kyle has become, operating under the delusion that wealth, family name, and charm could erase his repeated failures and earn forgiveness without true repentance, while the cruelest part of the entire fiasco was his ill-timed marriage proposal, a gesture born of arrogance rather than love, as if asking for her hand would somehow fill the chasm he created when what Claire needed most was distance, independence, and the ability to breathe outside of Kyle's suffocating expectations, and now he sulks, pouts, and waits, imagining that Claire will eventually come crawling back, while in truth Claire is thriving in ways that only fuel his insecurity, smiling that radiant smile at Holden, exchanging sharp remarks with Audra, and even holding her ground against beloved but overbearing Grandpa Victor, proving that she has inherited the iron backbone of the Newman women and the sharp wit to wield it at will, while Holden, with his easy charm and refreshing perspective, becomes the mirror that reflects Kyle's flaws in high definition, listening attentively as Claire vents about Kyle's missteps, encouraging her to see her own worth apart from the Abbott legacy, and in those light-hearted laughs and lingering glances the possibility of something new blossoms, something that might just evolve into the perfect proposal, the kind that isn't tainted by desperation or entitlement but born out of genuine admiration and shared joy. And while Kyle sulks, imagining the world owes him loyalty, Claire dances on the edge of freedom, caught between Holden's invitation to Los Angeles and the tug-of-war that her mother Victoria is about to ignite, because Victoria, embodied with elegance and gravitas by Amelia Heinley, has secrets of her own, the kind of secrets that cut deeper than mere advice, though she will offer Kyle counsel he never asked for, pushing him to see the wreckage of his choices, perhaps hoping her words will land where Jack and Diane's wisdom could not, though knowing Kyle, stubborn to his core, it would be a novel experience for him to actually listen, yet the warnings from Victoria may not be enough to stop him from spiraling further into self-inflicted disaster, for while Claire is being courted by Holden's light, Kyle remains tangled in Audra's shadow, the two of them locked in a never-ending cycle of blame and bickering, fighting with venomous words and pointed accusations, Kyle sneering that Genoa City has nothing left to offer Audra, while Audra fires back with the fury of a woman betrayed not only by business but by men who underestimate her, particularly Victor, whose failure to follow through on promises cost her opportunities that could have reshaped her empire, leaving her scrambling to rebuild in a city where every ally is temporary and every deal is laced with betrayal, much like Sally, who finds herself once again picking up the broken pieces of her career and her heart, having lost both love and livelihood due to Billy's reckless inability to separate personal impulses from professional choices, leaving her standing shoulder to shoulder with Audra as two women scarred by disappointment yet not broken, dusting themselves off and beginning the grueling climb back to relevance, refusing to remain down for long, yet both acutely aware that in Genoa City women are rarely allowed to win without being dragged through fire first. And while they strategize in private, plotting new beginnings while licking their wounds, the battlefield around them only grows bloodier, with Kyle and Audra's volatile arguments intensifying, their every encounter charged with both sexual tension and mutual contempt, proving that whatever connection they once shared in France is now poisoned, unfit for repair, and yet still magnetic enough to keep them circling each other like predators. Unwilling to admit defeat, a toxic dance that only underscores Kyle's desperation to reclaim control over a life spiraling beyond his grip, and all the while Claire, torn between her mother's cautionary words and Holden's tempting proposal, begins to carve out her own voice, spending time with Victoria not as a rebellious daughter but as a young woman seeking guidance, asking whether a trip to Los Angeles could truly be innocent or whether Holden's offer carries risks she cannot see, only to find that Victoria, protective to her core, will likely steer her away, reminding her that independence does not require new cities or new men, it requires strength within herself, though whether Claire listens remains to be seen, for her laughter with Holden, her ease in his company, and the sharp contrast it presents to the strained, almost painful conversations she now has with Kyle, make it harder and harder to imagine choosing the man who betrayed her when the alternative feels so liberating, so alive, and yet Genoa City is a place where freedom is always fleeting, where every smile hides a dagger, where every alliance is temporary, and where, no matter how far Claire runs, the shadows of Victor's promises, Kyle's entitlement, Audra's fury, Sally's resilience, and Victoria's guarded secrets will follow, ensuring that no proposal, no matter how perfect, comes without a cost, and as the weeks unfold, The audience will watch as laughter turns to longing, longing turns to choice, and choice turns into a battle that pits independence against legacy, love against betrayal, and the dreams of tomorrow against the ghosts of yesterday, with Claire at the center, Kyle pouting in the wings, Holden stepping forward with open arms, Audra and Sally quietly plotting their comebacks, Victoria speaking truths no one wants to hear, and Victor, always Victor, watching from his throne, pulling strings, making promises he will never keep, and proving once again that in Genoa City, nothing is ever simple, nothing is ever safe, and no one, no matter how rich, entitled, or determined, escapes the fallout of their choices. If the cracks in Kyle Abbott's world were already visible, the coming days will ensure those cracks widen into irreparable fractures, because despite his outward bravado and insistence that he is owed forgiveness simply by virtue of his name and fortune, the truth is that Kyle is crumbling under the weight of his own mistakes, and yet instead of reflecting, he lashes out at those around him, especially Audra, who now becomes the perfect scapegoat for all his failings, and their confrontations grow so vicious that even casual onlookers at society begin to whisper about the toxic energy radiating from their table, with Kyle hissing that Audra is nothing but a user who thrives on the chaos she creates, while Audra smirks with her cutting wit, reminding him that he had no issue enjoying that chaos when he kissed her in France, an act she frames as his choice, not hers, leaving Kyle seething but unable to deny the truth, and this constant back and forth not only deepens Kyle's resentment, but also exposes the reality that Audra, for all her flaws, is far more self-aware than he is, because she owns her ambition and her mistakes while Kyle remains trapped in denial, and yet, Audra is far from unscathed, for Victor's broken promises and Kyle's betrayals have left her cornered, stripped of allies, and forced to contemplate something she has rarely considered before, partnership with another woman, namely Sally Spectra, who is equally bruised by the fallout of Billy's recklessness. And while the two may not trust each other completely, they recognize that pooling resources, sharing intel, and aligning strategies might be the only way they claw themselves back to relevance, and so in hushed tones over wine, Sally and Audra begin to weave a plan that could shake the business landscape of Genoa City, envisioning a collaboration that sidesteps the men who have failed them and proves that women can build empires even when the system is stacked against them, though both know the road ahead will be brutal, because in this town, ambition without male backing is often punished, and they must tread carefully lest they paint targets on their backs, but even in their lowest moments, both women carry a spark of determination that makes them impossible to dismiss, and while they plot quietly, Kyle spirals loudly, cornering Claire with uninvited visits, pressuring her for answers she isn't ready to give, his desperation bleeding into arrogance as he tries to frame Holden as a passing distraction, but Claire, still raw from his betrayals, sees through the act and cannot ignore the stark difference between Kyle's suffocating demands and Holden's refreshing patience, because when Holden invites her to Los Angeles, he does so not as an ultimatum or a grand gesture but as an opportunity for her to explore, to breathe, to discover who she is without all the baggage of Abbott versus Newman expectations, and in that invitation lies both temptation and fear, for Claire knows that stepping away from Genoa City might be liberating, but it also means distancing herself from the tangled web of her family, especially Victoria, whose grip on her daughter remains firm, and Victoria, sensing Holden's growing influence, wastes no time in delivering unfiltered counsel, reminding Claire that every man comes with hidden motives, that Los Angeles is a city designed to devour the unprepared, and that Holden's charm could easily mask a dangerous agenda, and while Claire bristles at the overprotectiveness, she cannot entirely dismiss her mother's words, because beneath Victoria's guarded tone lies unspoken secrets. The kind that suggest she knows more about Holden than she's willing to share, and this secrecy only fuels Claire's confusion, leaving her torn between the promise of freedom and the weight of obligation, but even as she wrestles with her future, her present grows clearer. Kyle is no longer the man she can picture standing by her side, not after the lies, the arrogance, and the ill-timed proposal that felt more like a demand than a declaration of love, and so while Kyle continues to believe forgiveness is inevitable, Claire begins to imagine a life where forgiveness is neither required nor desired, a life where she laughs freely with Holden, challenges Victor without fear, and reclaims her narrative in a city that has long tried to write her story for her, and meanwhile, Victor watches with the cool detachment of a man who plays the long game, promising everything to everyone yet delivering only what suits his empire, his betrayals leaving ripples that crash hardest against women. Like Audra and Sally, who now stand poised to become his most dangerous adversaries, because burned women often rise stronger, and though they may not yet see it, their partnership has the potential to outmaneuver even Victor himself, creating a new power structure that could permanently alter the balance in Genoa City. But before any of that comes to fruition, the immediate drama simmers on the surface, with Kyle's escalating bitterness, Claire's looming decision, Holden's steady presence, Victoria's whispered secrets, Sally and Audra's covert alliance, and Victor's watchful eye creating a cauldron of tension that threatens to boil over at any moment, ensuring that every move, every word, every choice carries consequences. And as the lines between love and betrayal, ambition and survival, truth and manipulation blur, the residents of Genoa City are reminded once again that their lives are not merely stories, they are battles, and battles always leave casualties, some expected, others devastatingly unforeseen. The undercurrent of tension only deepens as Genoa City becomes the stage for battles both private and public, with Kyle Abbott's downfall serving as the loudest, most self-destructive spectacle of them all, because while he pretends to be composed, the truth is that rejection has turned him volatile, his sense of entitlement amplifying every wound into a personal crusade. So when Claire does not answer his calls, he storms into Victoria's office demanding to know whether she has poisoned Claire. Against him, oblivious to the irony that it was his own actions, the kiss with Audra, the secrecy with Victor, and the ill-timed proposal, that created the distance Claire so desperately needs, and Victoria, unwilling to coddle him, gives him uninvited but piercing counsel, telling him that if he ever wants to be worthy of Claire's love, he needs to stop treating relationships like business mergers, stop using grand gestures to paper over betrayal, and start learning humility. But Kyle, too arrogant to absorb the truth, scoffs at her words, accusing her of meddling, only proving her point further. And this exchange plants the seed for Victoria's next move, because while she does not meddle lightly, she knows her daughter stands at a crossroads, and she cannot allow Kyle's manipulative tactics to drag Claire into another cycle of heartbreak, especially not when Holden, with his warmth and steady presence, has managed to make Claire smile again, though smiles a stark contrast to the pained silences she now shares with Kyle, and Holden's invitation to Los Angeles becomes a beacon of possibility. A chance for Claire to step outside of Genoa City's suffocating drama and discover what life might look like if she chose herself over legacy, though the danger lies in the fact that Holden's charm might not be as flawless as it appears, a suspicion Victoria quietly harbors but refuses to fully voice, perhaps because she knows that if she forbids the trip, Claire will only rebel harder, and so instead she frames her advice as caution, warning her daughter that sometimes men who arrive with open arms are carrying hidden daggers. Yet Claire, weary of constant warnings and eager for freedom, begins to consider taking Holden up on his offer, and this potential move rattles Kyle to his core, his fear of losing Claire not inspiring growth but rather driving him deeper into confrontation, leading to an explosive argument with Audra in the middle of society, where he hurls accusations that she orchestrated their kiss to ruin him and Claire, while Audra, amused by his desperation, reminds him that he kissed her willingly, that he is the architect of his own destruction, and that blaming her only exposes how incapable he is of facing his own flaws. And the more she taunts him, the more he loses control, his words so cutting that even Phyllis, sitting nearby, raises an eyebrow at how far her son has fallen. But Audra, though hurt, does not crumble, because she has something Kyle lacks, an actual plan, one that involves Sally Spectra, who is equally determined to claw her way back to relevance, and together these two women, bonded by shared loss and fueled by a thirst for reinvention, begin to quietly sketch out their future, plotting late-night strategies that involve fashion lines, media tie-ins, and a bold vision for independence, all while knowing that men like Victor will try to sabotage them at every turn, and though both have been burned by relying on others, this time they vow to rely on themselves. Yet in Genoa City, ambition is always a double-edged sword, and their alliance will inevitably paint a target on their backs, though for now the promise of building something new keeps them afloat, their whispered plans echoing with resilience even as their personal lives remain in shambles. And while Sally and Audra rebuild